Hey traders, gonna do a review today for May 25th, 2023. Looking at the market internals for SPY here. Today, definitely in hindsight, was a range day. We had the Nvidia pump causing quite a huge gap up on the open for futures, which of course affects the ETFs that track futures, SPY, IWM, QQQ. Right off of the open, we see that trend is showing a balance yet again. We did maintain TWAP by about 1030. We see a nice double bottom on the TWAP, a break above standard deviation, and a retest of the opening price, which we do see playing out for the rest of the day. If we turn on the second deviation, we can see we even broke through that here. Rather interesting though is that the trend maintains a balanced status pretty much until about 12 o'clock, where we see another acceptance test of the TWAP back up to the second deviation, roughly around that same open price again. Meanwhile, the tick has predominantly been on the bearish side. So today is a really great example of what I would call the out of sync nature for the internals and SPY. This is quite uncharacteristic from all the time I've been monitoring the internals. It does happen, but we still saw some good reactions, and this was still a balance, but you can see the add and vold bands were red the entire day, but yet the price definitely was oscillating. Now we did see some trend breaks on the add and vold bands. You can see we had the 20 SMA reversals a handful of times that did correlate with the rising price, but it didn't do it here this morning. If we look at the ads, you can see while SPY was rising in price, add was actually in a decline below zero, and the vold was same story. The vold actually, with the exception of this pump here, was in a decline the entire day, and it actually went to quite an extreme bearish level. One thing that was something I was watching the entire day was the weekly TWAP. So we've spent all week building this value on the weekly anchor, and we can see we opened up roughly right around there, and every time we rejected today was right around that weekly anchored TWAP. We did finally break above at around 116. That's quite close to the 130 time I've mentioned that can bring some action. 1230, 130. We broke above quite strong, and then we see a nice sharp fall back to the TWAP area. The monthly TWAP, you can see every time we bounced, it was roughly around there in the morning session up until lunch. After noon, we basically left that behind and we branched further apart. You can see the session, daily TWAP and monthly TWAP spreading further apart. I don't know if this means we're going to start to see the price rising again. We'll just have to wait and see for tomorrow. It is somewhat encouraging. Vold had spent all this time coming down while SPY was still holding price. That could give us room to see an ascension on Vold on volume in the markets towards the trending up stocks, but we'll just have to wait and see. I'll leave weekly TWAP on and we'll check the Qs today. Qs, I would say, were roughly the same story as SPY, but slightly more cramped, I guess. The channel was very tight. I don't even think you could have, maybe you could have scalped this right here, but the internals didn't give any signals. The Russell, on the other hand, I feel was actually quite in sync with the internals today. So I guess what we could say is that today the Russell was mostly dumping off, and that's what was affecting the New York Stock Exchange the most. We can see right around here the add and vold 20 SMA trends were red. They flipped from green, seeing some nice ticks. Tick average closure is below zero, and we're under the session TWAP. This is a good short, and yeah, it does pretty well. The only thing that really wasn't in agreement was trend showing a balance. Again, as I've said in past videos, it's perhaps something you'll have to decide for yourself on how much alignment you really want to see. Then we get some reversal on add, but it's somewhat out of sync. The tick is given decent signals by itself. So we have extreme lows. We're riding the lower standard deviation. This is somewhat of a reversal setup here. Still kind of messy today. Heading back to SPY, we'll look at the tick levels. Similar to the other days this week, a lot of thick lines here that just represent a lot of trading in that particular area where tick had printed extreme movements. It did, by about here, we already had a nice base, so it did provide a couple of bounce signals. I managed to scalp some today, but honestly, with the price action, and I don't know what was going on with some of the 3x bull bear ETFs that I use for scalping. They were slipping quite terribly today with market fills, so I didn't really do that great today. But looking back at this, the quality of the day overall was quite terrible. I think that concludes the review. Like I said, not a whole lot here, but I am somewhat anticipating some kind of a move tomorrow to the upside, potentially, just because of Vold here. But we'll see. We've had other days where Vold is sold off hard. Here on the 16th, for example, we can go look at SPY on the 16th. Yeah, and we had a nice gap, but then we gave it all back up here. We did have a nice move afterwards. So maybe we'll see something tomorrow. Again, obviously use the data that's available. Presentation here on MIT if you're using the indicator and the TWAP. I think it's all pretty nice presentation, and it gives a good picture of where fair value might be, where bounces and rejections could be. So I'll be looking to do another market review tomorrow with the internals. Happy trading as always. Thanks for watching.